Welcome back. I'm Peyton, this is Paige, and of course we talk about murder and the macabre. Welcome to 2K Away. Instead of doing the full introduction, I just don't even worry about it. We'll just get right on in. And the first thing that we had to do is we do have some true crime business, and Paige is gonna
Yes.
talk about it.
And I want to make this one of my episodes too, because I kind of forgot about this.
Yeah.
This just popped up today, as in the day we recorded this. So on the 13th,
Yeah.
Miss Lisa Montgomery has been the first woman on federal death row to be executed since for 67 years. So if she rings a little bit of a bell to you, she was the one in early 2000s, 2004, I believe, who she murdered this woman and literally cut her baby out of her womb and stole the baby and left the mother to bleed out. So she has officially been executed as of the 13th today.
Yep.
So I definitely, maybe my next episode might be on her. I don't know. We'll see. I'll throw her in there somewhere.
Yeah. Because as far as covering stuff that like has recently happened in the true crime world, the case that I was going to do, I'll just go right out and say it. I was planning on doing Peter Sutcliffe, the Yorkshire Ripper. I was planning on doing him today, but I want to watch the docuseries on Netflix before I do that, because I've heard that it's kind of problematic. They are, they're not, because anybody that doesn't know Peter Sutcliffe and his case is he attacked sex workers. And apparently what I've been hearing is that the docuseries has not been putting them in a very good light. Like they're just like, yes, they were sex workers, but it's like they're apparently not using very good language with it either. They're just being like prostitutes, that sort of thing. Yeah. So apparently they didn't really handle it as tactfully as they should have, is what I've been hearing. So
now I need to watch it.
Before I cover Peter Sutcliffe, I really want to watch that just to, have that in my mind.
Yeah.
But again, since I already made the decision not to cover Peter Sutcliffe because I still hadn't watched that docuseries, I decided to cover someone else. However, the next person that I had on my list, I was planning on doing, but this particular case caught my eye. And like in the Harry Potter universe, the wand chooses the wizard. So this case chose me.
And I don't know what it is, actually. I didn't ask and she didn't tell me, so.
It's gonna be fun. This is kind of, yeah. But before I go into it, again, I hadn't told you, but I have kind of a creepy story to tell you.
Yeah.
So last week after we recorded, I got my $600 stimulus check. So my roommate and I, we were talking about having dinner, and I was just kind of like, I want nachos. Like, I want Mexican food. So I was just like, hey, I'll buy. I just got my $600.
I got some money.
Right, exactly. I was just like, I just got a hair flip deposit, So I walked out to my car, and by that time it was already dark, of course. So as I'm walking to my car, unfortunately, I don't have a parking space where I live, so I have to do street parking, which kind of sucks, but it's like, whatever. So as I'm walking to my car, I see this like big like budget van.
No.
Like it's like pulling up by me, and it starts to slow when it gets close to me. And it like all but stops. I saw there was 2 people in it, and I heard a ma'am from
then you turned around and ran, right?
Oh, I had my AirPods in. Of course, I didn't play anything because it's at night and I'm alone. and I'm not stupid. So I didn't have anything playing, but I had my AirPods in, so I pretended not to hear. And
Right.
I'm like, and my car was literally like maybe like 20, 25, 30 steps in front of me. So I promptly unlocked my car, speed walked to my car, and then got inside and then locked it immediately after. And I was just like, I am not about to be murdered on the way to get my fucking food. And honestly,
No.
what's really bad is
That-
the first thing
that would be disappointing.
and the first thing that I thought of was not my family, not my loved ones, is I want my fucking nachos. So so then on the way back, I get my food, and then I come back. I park my car. I saw this motherfucker on a skateboard, and I get out of my car and I'm standing there and I got the bag. He comes rolling up behind me, and then I hear him pick it up, and he's behind me. So I like turn around because I'm already on edge from the budget van. So I like turn around, and he like hurry up and like throws his skateboard down and then rolls past me. And I was just like, I would be the motherfucker that got murdered by a skateboarder. Like,
Well, and he probably wasn't expecting you to do that, because most people would be like scared and be like, but
well,
and he got confronted. Like, what are you doing?
Well, that's the thing, is like, I didn't know I had my backpack on. And for anyone that knows me, I fucking hate purses, so I carry a backpack. But I was like, if he's like gonna like try and get in my backpack or something, that was my immediate thought. My God, that was
What
my
is
immediate thought. I don't know. That was my immediate thought. Immediate thought.
Regular.
No.
My first thought.
So my first thought was that he was going to like try and get in my bag. I wasn't thinking like, oh, he's gonna murder me or something like the budget man people. So that's why I turned around. I'm sure it was like a kind of look. So that's why he like threw down his skateboard. Was
That's
like, oh
what
shit.
Saying. Probably wasn't expecting a confrontation.
Yeah. Sorry to those of you that are just listening, but I made a crazy face. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. So I missed, yeah, because and again, I was thinking as I'm going to my car, I'm like, I'm not about to be murdered in a fucking budget van. And it wasn't just like a regular like van with a slidey door. It was one of those big box ones.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was just like, there's a kill room back there, and I don't want to be a part of it. No, I ain't doing
They
it.
got tarps.
No.
They got tarps.
They got tarps, and I want my fucking nachos.
Yeah.
So I survived. But yeah, just a little creepy. I was just like, no, because as soon as they slowed down and I heard, ma'am, I was like,
this isn't happening.
No,
sir.
Yeah. All right. So let's dive in. It's adjusting. Sorry. All right. So let's dive in. Alrighty. So today we are covering Mary Eleanor Wheeler Piercy. So
That's
I believe, yeah, but Wheeler's her maiden name. It's I'll explain, but that's her full name.
Okay.
So today we're covering her case. We're going across the pond today into England.
All right.
Yes, which I'm excited about. I think this is actually our first case that we're doing in another country, I believe.
I didn't know. I did the Ligonnese.
Oh, in France, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our second one in Europe that we're covering.
Xavier.
Yes, Xavier.
That little fucker that's still
piece
out
of
and
shit.
out.
Yeah. So we're covering Mary. I'm just going to refer to her as Mary Pearcey. I think some people did refer to her as Eleanor, but I'm going to go ahead and say Mary. Plus, no, she's not going to Correct me, because she's dead. So
Okay. Spoiler alert.
yes, kind of. So, and this is also kind of a cool case because I'll explain why. You know what? We'll just save that to the end.
Get right in.
Yes. So, as far as her background goes, what I do know is that she was born Mary Eleanor Wheeler in 1866.
Oh, that's why she's dead now.
No, that's not even why.
Oh.
She was executed. But
Oh.
yes.
Okay.
So, but as far as her early life, that's all I know. That's all you can find. Don't really know much about her early life at all, or her childhood, or even who her parents were.
Wow.
Nothing. So there is a really good book. I unfortunately didn't get the chance to read it because it's only in like a hardback cover and it wouldn't have gotten to me in time. But it's called Woman at the Devil's Door, The Extraordinary True Story of Mary Pearcey and the Hampstead Murders. It's by Sarah Beth Hopton, and she did like extensive research into Mary Pearcey's life. And I mean, even she didn't really get a lot.
Wow.
But again, not sure who her parents were, but it was stated like after her case all came out because she was convicted of the murder of a woman and her child. Yes. So it had been stated that her father may have been a man named Thomas Wheeler, who was convicted and hanged for the murder of a man named Edward Anstey. But Sarah Beth Hopton, the author of this particular book that I found that this connection had been disputed because there was also a retraction of the newspaper article where this information was first printed. So it's said that that may have been her father, but no one actually really knows.
Oh.
So Mary took the name Piercy from a man named John Charles Piercy, who was a carpenter that she lived with for 3 years. She came to live with him, I think, about like 17 or 18, he said, because I read his deposition. I read several other people's deposition. I told you I did the research.
Yeah. Oh, look at you. First time ever.
I'm really coming into my own. So, okay, so they never got married, but she did take his last name. People did refer to her as his wife.
So she stole it.
Kind of, yeah.
She just like, I'm taking this.
Well, I saw one article that said like her alias. I don't really think that she had that intention to use it as an alias, for a life of crime, because it wasn't really like that. It was just she took his last name so they would seem married, I think. Because they lived together but never got married. I don't know. So, but he ended up leaving her because she was unfaithful.
Oh.
That's
all right.
thing. Yeah. So she later moved in with a furniture remover named Frank Hogg. So Frank Hogg was managing a furniture business for his mother. She did know Frank during her relationship with John Charles, so I'm not sure if that's the reason for her infidelity, but could have been. I don't know. Maybe. Frank had at least one other lover named Phoebe Styles. Yeah. And one source that I read, because like on the Wikipedia page, of course, like you shouldn't use that for like your only form of research, but it's a good place to get like an overall of the happenings,
Well, that, and it gives you a bunch of sources down at the
exactly
bottom too,
like
so that kind of helps.
Like that's the good thing about Wikipedia is the fact that you can get sources from that that are actually pretty reputable. So that's that. But that was how Wikipedia had it typed out. Frank had at least one other lover. I was like, oh. So I don't know if he was just, one of those guys that just got around or what. I don't know. So, because the unfortunate thing is that this case is really old. So what I have was like what anyone could find.
Yeah.
So Phoebe, his at least one other lover, she became pregnant. So Mary ended up moving out so that Phoebe could move in. Phoebe and Frank lived on Bayham Street. They all lived in Kentish Town in Camden Town, which is kind of like a suburb in London.
Okay.
Like northern London-ish. Because I even took looked on a map.
You looked at the map too? Wow.
Sure
that's more than
did.
any of us have ever done.
I know. Well, because this case is not only so old, but it's also in a country that I've never been to.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that I knew where everything was in proximity to one another, because that does kind of matter. So Mary ended up moving into a lodging on Priory Street. So I tried to look into what lodging meant. It didn't really specify. So from what I understood about reading through this case, I think it was maybe an apartment or something, or a couple rooms that she rented out from somebody's house,
Like
something like that.
Or
something like that. So I don't know if I don't know if it was an apartment that she rented out, or if it was some sort of inn or a hotel or something of that nature.
Yeah.
But she lived there for quite a while. She lived there for quite a while. Why can I not talk?
I don't know.
Anyway.
That's a problem.
I know. So when she moved, she gave Frank a key so that he would have access to her rooms.
No.
Like you do. So the New York Times article that I was able to get my hands on from 1890.
Wow.
I'm going to quote this a couple times because it's one of those things where it was written so long ago that sometimes it is a little hard to read because it's so filled with unnecessary words.
So wordy. Well, like the Sequinic docket.
Yes, it was kind of like that. So a New York Times article quoted about her relationship to Frank, said her attachment to Hogg had become absorbing and ungovernable, which I really like that wording.
Wow.
Yeah. So
fancy.
Yeah. The reason for them to say that is before Frank and Phoebe wed, Mary would write him letters. And according to Frank, because again, I read his testimony as well. According to Frank, he said that there was no intercourse between he and Mary until after he wed Phoebe. He wanted to make that very clear that he did not have sex with anyone until after he was married, because then after he was married, then yes, he did have sex with those two women, but he waited until he was married.
That's not really what if you're trying to go by the Bible, no sex before marriage type of thing, that's not actually what it means.
I will
get married and then have all the sex with different people.
That's why I found it so fucking funny. And once we're done recording, I'll screen share with you to show you his testimony. It's so unbelievable. But anyway, yeah, he wanted to make that very clear that he did not have sex with her until after he was married to Phoebe. I was like, okay, Frank.
I was a virgin until I got married. Then I had sex with two other women.
Right. Then I was having sex with everybody, because you have to wait till you get married to have sex with anyone.
I didn't know that's how it worked.
I didn't know either. And now, you know what? I feel enlightened.
I do too.
So
we did it all wrong.
Right. So going back. Let's reel it back in, because otherwise I could spend an hour laughing about how dumb it is.
Oh my gosh, seriously.
Yeah. So before Frank and Phoebe wed, Mary would write him letters, and in these letters she wrote to, in quotes, not to go away from her, and he read some of those out in court. He read some of his letters out, or the letters that he got from Mary. He read some of them out in the courtroom, and they said not to go away from her, and she could see him married 50 times over rather than part from him. So essentially she was begging him not to cut ties with her. She's like, it's fine if you're married, I don't care, but please just don't let me go. I don't know what I will do. She even made the offer to love him and his future wife, and that she would visit them both if he should wish her to do so. So I'm like,
Wow.
that's pretty progressive.
Honestly,
Cool.
in 18 whatever it was. Yeah.
This
it was.
this particular I wrote down kind of a little bit of a crude timeline, and I'll say it. So from what I understand of this whole thing, before I even knew the baby's birthday, I made this timeline and I was actually correct about it. So I was pretty happy about that. So as far as I can tell, so the baby was probably conceived around August 1888 between Frank and Phoebe. They were married in November of 1888. The baby was born April 11th, 1889. And then Phoebe and her baby were murdered October of 1890. So this whole thing kind of takes place within like a couple years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess Frank and Mary had been like doing their little thing for a good long while, and then Phoebe came in the picture, and then she got pregnant, and that's when
Shit went haywire.
Yeah. So Frank did marry Phoebe in November of 1888. Frank even later deposed that there was, again, never any intercourse with Mary until after he was married. I know. So moving on, because otherwise, again, Phoebe gave birth to a daughter on April 11, 1888, who she named Phoebe Hanslope. Don't know where Hanslope came from, but that's been in multiple sources, so I went ahead and wrote it down.
All right.
But they did nickname the baby Tiggy. I don't know.
Confused.
I don't know where the nickname came from or the Hanslope, but that's what my research came to. So let me scroll down. Yeah, I don't know where they came from.
I don't hate Tiggy.
Yeah,
I just don't know where they're getting that nickname.
I don't either. I think it's kind of cute, but again, I don't know where the hell it's from. But so, not having officially met Phoebe yet, Mary invited the Hoggs to her home for Christmas in 1889. So they were still, so apparently Mary and Frank were still communicating with one another. I don't know if they were having sex, but they were.
He got married.
Yeah, not until he got married, but they were still communicating with one another.
Not to her, but
yeah. So she invited him because she would write, again, these letters that she would write him, apparently she would sometimes hand deliver, sometimes she would leave them like places for him to find, whatever. Because that's another thing, is that she would even leave him on like her dresser for him, because he did have his own key. Need I remind you that he had his own key, but they never had sex before he was married. So anyway.
He just came over for tea.
So Mary invited the Hoggs to her home on Christmas of 1889. Frank, Phoebe, and the baby spent Christmas Day and Boxing Day with Mary at her place on Priory Street. And from all accounts, it seemed like a joyous occasion. It seemed like they had a good time. And I'm not sure how the introductions went. And from all my research, Phoebe at the time was not aware of the relationship between her husband and this random fucking woman they were going to spend a banking holiday with. But good. Yeah, I have no idea. But Mary basically like integrated herself into the Hogg family. And it seemed from Phoebe's view anyway that they had become pretty good friends. Her and Mary. Yeah.
That's upsetting.
So, and yeah, also in Frank's testimony, he used the language, Mary made a habit of visiting my wife. Because in anything you do a lot of, you make a habit of doing. Right. And I just thought, for some reason, like, his language from his testimony just made me think of, like, he just kind of, like, felt like she was just kind of a thing that he had sex with once in a while.
After he was married.
Yeah, of course. Never before.
Can't do that.
But that's, I don't know. That's just kind of what it made me feel like from reading his stuff. Yeah. So after the holidays around February, Phoebe felt ill. Don't know of what, but Mary nursed her back to health. She stayed on a couch in an adjoining room for the first couple days, but then would go home at night and come back in the morning. Mary pampered her through the process. She took care of the baby and the domestic responsibilities since Phoebe was ill. And she did this for about 3 weeks while Phoebe was sick.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
That's some dedication there.
yeah. When Phoebe got better, though, Mary apparently stopped staying over for extended periods because apparently Frank started doubting his wife's fidelity, which I'm like, really, Frank?
What?
I don't know.
You son of a bitch.
That was according to the New York Times article that I read about it. So according to Frank, Mary only came over like once or twice since Phoebe's sickness to visit Phoebe. Never when Frank was there, of course. And again, during all this time, Frank was still visiting Mary on occasion to do a little trysting. So I don't, again, according to Frank, she had only came over like a couple times after this until, she killed his wife. But I don't know, it could have been more. But despite this, Mary continued to be friendly with Frank's sister Clara and his mother, which they shared the same address. So I think they were kind of like in a I don't want to say a co-op, but something of that nature where it's like their mother and Clara was on the first floor, and then Frank, Phoebe, and the baby were like on the second floor. Yeah. So again, I don't know if it's like apartment or something. Anybody who lives in London or has been to London, please explain this to me.
Because so basically, Mary was really trying to insert her into his life however she could find.
Yeah, from what it... So
other than just him coming over to see her, she wanted to be all up in his business and his family as well.
Yes. So I'll go to conclusions as to what I think about this at the end. Because to me it could go one of two ways. So I'll say it at the end. But Mary would stop by to visit Phoebe, and again, Frank says only a couple times, but anytime that she would come over to visit Phoebe, Phoebe would always like return her visit and go over her house. And again, throughout this time, Frank is still making visits to Mary on Priory Street. So, October 24th of 1890, Mary invited Phoebe and the baby over to her home, and it was said that Phoebe left her home at around 3 p.m. So according to Frank, Phoebe's father was very ill around this time and was expected to probably die. So he left the house that day around 9 a.m. to work, and it was arranged that if Phoebe received any news whatsoever about her father, that she would go be with him in a place called Chorley Wood. So I'm not quite sure how far away it is, but they did have to take a train to go to this place. So it's not as close as the rest of what happened and the locations in the story. So she would have had to travel a much longer distance. So neighbors reported hearing screaming and, in quotes, sounds of violence from the house at around 4 p.m.
Back at her home?
At Mary's house.
At Mary's house.
Mary's. Remember, Mary invited Phoebe to come over, and Phoebe left the house at around 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So that evening, a woman's body was found in a pile of trash in Hampstead. Her skull had been crushed, and her head was nearly severed from her body. Ooh. They at first were thinking that it was like possibly like a transient or a sex worker, because the language that they used in the article, the New York Times article that I found, was of an unfortunate in parentheses. So I'm assuming they thought it was possibly like a transient or something. And then a black perambulator, which I had to look what the hell that was.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
It's an old style baby carriage. If you saw a picture of one, you would know immediately what it was.
Oh, okay.
So I went ahead and used the proper language, but I'm going to refer to it as a baby carriage from now on, because perambulator is rough for my dumb brain to say.
Yeah, and you're already having problems.
I'm having
with
problems.
Words regularly.
Shut up. So I'm going to say baby carriage. because my real simple brain and mouth can't handle perambulator, even though I'm saying that just fine. So,
And not initially.
yeah. So a black baby carriage was found about a mile away from the body of the adult woman, and its cushions were soaked in blood.
Oh.
Then they found an 18-month-old child dead in Finchley, who they determined the cause of death was asphyxiation.
Oh.
So I've heard two different things. I've heard that the child was either smothered or strangled. Either way, it was asphyxiation that the child died of. Okay, so I'm going to do like a quick little just to kind of know what everything is and how far everything is from one another real quick, because I'm going to reiterate that this is 1890 and they don't have cars.
Right.
So they lived in Camden Town, which is kind of like a suburb of London. So in Camden Town, they lived in Kentish. So the adult woman's body was found in Hampstead, which is about 2 miles from Kentish and 3.2 kilometers if you're from anywhere else in the world away from one another. So Finchley, hold on. So Finchley, shut up. It looks fucked up because this was my brain going like, ah. So that's why I'm like,
you need us on your wall with the spider web pen.
I do. Oh my god, that crazy like meme where it's like
it's like it was here and then they were here.
This is where Hampstead is. So anyway, so Kentish Town is about 2 miles or 3.2 kilometers if you're from anywhere besides in the United States from Hampstead, which is where the adult woman's body was found. The baby was found in Finchley, which is about 4 miles or 6.5 kilometers from Hampstead. Finchley is about 5.5 miles or about 9 kilometers away from Kentish. So, little bit of a distance.
Yeah.
But still doable. Just keep all that in mind, that this is all relatively close to one another.
Yeah.
Also, in my search of where everything was, I found that London has a vagina museum, and I really want to go when the plague is done.
A vagina museum?
A vagina museum.
You could learn so much.
We have like displays where it's like, what is a hymen? That sort of thing. I'm like, that's cool as shit. Anyway.
Okay, that's neat. I need to go there.
I know. So when the plague is over. So
I'm just going to fly to London.
Just to see the vagina museum. That's it. That's our only that's our only bit of our itinerary. But anyway. So Frank, having been working all day, got home at around 10 p.m. I know, I'm like, that's a crazy long day, but it's 1890.
Well,
yeah. So he did not find his wife or child and saw that the baby carriage was gone. And because he even said like, oh, she makes a habit of going out and visiting people with the baby in the carriage.
At 10 p.m.?
Yeah, I was like, really at 10? Okay, whatever. But so he saw the baby carriage was gone. He saw a note on the table, read it, went downstairs, saw his mom, and then he left to go to Mary's. The note is apparently what made him go to Mary's. I don't know what this fucking note said, and I looked, couldn't find it. But the note is apparently the reason that he went to Mary's, supposedly. So he walked over there, got there at about 10:20, let himself in with his key, and when he got there, there was no light in the front parlor or in the hall. Generally, there was a lamp against the wall that was always lit, and apparently it was like Mary's job within whatever lodging she was in to light that particular light.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a light in the back parlor that was used as a bedroom. There was an understanding between the two of them that if there was a light in the back parlor, it meant that Mary was out and might be late. So seeing that the light in the back of the parlor was on, he left her a note and left the house. because apparently it was all dark. I don't exactly know, but apparently
Interesting.
he didn't see anything. And I find that very peculiar when I'm going to describe the scene.
Mm.
So he left her a note and left. He went home and slept there the entire night. Again, I don't know what this fucking note said either. I don't know.
Okay. You go home. You go home at 10.
Also,
Your
sorry
wife-
if you hear barking. That's my roommate's dog, Max.
If you go home, you get home at 10 p.m. Your wife and pretty much infant daughter, or
It's
daughter,
like a year and a half old.
is not home along with the baby carriage. They're not home. And you're like, that's weird. Here's a note. I'm going to go over to my mistress's house. Oh, yeah, she's not there either. I'll leave her a note. I'm going to go back home and then just go to sleep, even though my wife and child are still not home.
Yeah, I find that really weird.
What?
But again, I don't know the habits of the Hogg family to really say if that's weird or not. I don't know. I don't know. But you also have to think that her father was dying. So he could, because she was her father was dying in a different town. So not her not being home wasn't exactly like a big alarm. That. Yeah. So again, like I don't know the habits of the Hogg family. I don't know how late they stay out, you know.
I wasn't there.
I wasn't. I was not even a glint in anybody's eye then. So again, I don't think that would have alarmed him right away because she might have been in, I think it was Corley Wood, yeah. Because he might have thought that she was in Corley Wood with her currently dying father. So I'm sure that's why he didn't really think much of it. So I know the circumstances are weird. And when I found out that he went to Mary's house that night, I was just like, how did you not fucking see anything? But whatever. Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
So October 25th, the next day, Frank woke up at 6 a.m. and went to the stable to work and returned for breakfast at 7:45. So after breakfast, Frank went to Corley Wood because they're like, where the hell's Phoebe?
Mm-hmm.
You know, even
as you would.
Yeah, and his mom and his sister were like, what the hell's going on? So he gave Clara directions on what to do while he was away. So he took a train to Corley Wood and, of course, didn't find his wife there and promptly returned to London. While Frank was in Corley Wood, Clara called upon Mary to ask if she had seen Phoebe. So she went over to Mary's home. So when Frank returned home, his mother showed him a newspaper which told of the woman's body that was found. And in his testimony, he was just like, I just knew. Like, that was... Yeah, so he said he hadn't heard anything on the train or read anything, but reading that in the paper was when he had the first hint that may have been his wife. He was like, can't find my wife. I have a feeling. Yeah. So Frank goes and identifies the body as his wife Phoebe and identifies the baby as well. Ugh. So the body, I guess, was being held at a nearby like mortuary. I'm not sure where. So I guess now we're over at Mary's house. So I guess Mary had blood on her or blood stains on her. And there was blood in the house. You know, of course, like it's the daytime now. I don't exactly know if Clara saw anything. Because again, if she's in some sort of like apartment building or lodging of some sort, they might not have been in the room that Phoebe was killed, because I'll explain that later as well. So, you know, it's 1890. People are gross. And she probably didn't have the... I'm assuming that she had blood on her hands from the scene that I'm going to describe. I'm assuming that she probably had blood-stained hands. So I guess Clara... commented on it, and Mary told her that she scratched her hands and smeared her dresser with blood, killing mice. So that was her story that she told Clara. Yeah, so I was like, but still. So it was during this visit when they got the news of a woman's body being discovered in Hampstead, and Clara asked Mary to go to the mortuary where the body was being held to see if it was Phoebe. And I think during this time, I don't know 100% if the entire Hogg family and Mary was there at the same time, but I know Clara and Mary went together. So I don't know if they were there during the time that Frank was identifying Phoebe.
Mm-hmm.
He also said that her wedding ring was gone,
Oh.
but it wasn't in Mary's possession. So it may have been in like the heap of trash that she was found in, but they didn't find it.
Mm.
So,
or she ate it. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think so. Let's move
weren't
on.
There.
You're right. Again, I wasn't. So, it was Mary's strange behavior in the presence of the corpse that made police suspicious. So that's when they searched her home. I couldn't find what strange behavior it was because I was looking. I was looking to see what the hell she was doing in the presence of Phoebe's body, but I couldn't fucking find it. So it just said strange behavior. So I don't know if she was, I don't know. It doesn't matter because they searched her house. So in the house, they found blood spatter on the walls, ceiling, a skirt and apron, as well as matted hair and blood on a fireplace poker and carving knife.
Oh my gosh.
So I believe this was in the kitchen. So Mary even had blood stains on her. And when questioned by the police, she said that she had a problem with mice and she was trying to kill them. Like, really, Mary? This is a lot of blood for mice, but who am I?
Yeah.
During their search, a metal button on a jacket belonging to Phoebe was found in the dustbin of 2 Priory Street during the search conducted by police. Yeah. And then, according to the theory set up by the surgical witnesses, so how they... Let's set the scene here, because they're going to explain everything. So, Phoebe, when entering the kitchen, was struck down from behind by a heavy blow inflicted with the fireplace poker on the back of her head and fell down on the floor in convulsions. They said terrible convulsions. I don't know what that exactly means, but I'm assuming like maybe she was seizing. Maybe. That's what I think. So, while struggling, she received 3 more blows, which most likely stunned her. And then from there, the murderer, Mary, all but severed Phoebe's head from her body with 3 cuts from a knife.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Wait, from behind or from the front, you think?
It didn't specify, but I'm assuming from behind because...
Yeah, if she was...
Because
in the back of the head.
She was hit from behind on the back of the head, so I'm assuming that it was probably like her spinal cord that may have been severed, is what I'm assuming. Gosh. But again, I unfortunately couldn't find that information. That's all I got. So 2 witnesses deposed to having seen Mrs. Piercy that afternoon between 6 and 7 propelling a perambulator which seemed very heavily loaded.
Oh.
Keep in mind the location of the different towns the bodies were found in. So, it's assumed that after she had killed Phoebe, she then killed the baby, loaded both bodies into the perambulator, and wheeled them off to the places where they were found.
Phoebe must not have been very big. She must have been a small woman.
I think it may have been a
Good Lord.
I think it was a Did I have a fucking stroke? Oh my god.
Maybe.
Anyway.
Hold up your hands.
I think it was a combination of Phoebe being a small woman and the perambulator just being a really big baby carriage.
Yeah.
Because I have a picture of it. And I'll explain later.
Shit.
And I'll explain later why I do. So, another thing is Mary was described as slight of figure and rather fragile in appearance. And I'm going to read the last a little bit of the last paragraph of the New York Times article that I read just to show you what kind of language that we're dealing with here
I
as to
love
like
it.
why it was a little difficult to read. But Mary was a rather small woman as well. So the theories that they presented was she murdered Phoebe and the baby in Kentish Town, put their bodies in the baby carriage, and then wheeled Phoebe 2 miles, 3.2 kilometers, to Hampstead, walked the baby carriage 2 miles to Hampstead, dumped Phoebe, and then walked another 4 miles, 6.5 kilometers, and then dumped the baby. So, hold on.
Holy shit, that is...
Hold on. No. They found the perambulator by Phoebe. So they found the baby carriage by Phoebe. So that means that for another 4 miles,
she carried the baby.
Mary carried the baby and then dumped it in Finchley and then walked back.
Which you probably wouldn't blink an eye at a woman carrying a baby thinking that it's sleeping.
Well, I'm going to explain why that may not have been so weird at the end when we get into theories, because that's another reason why this case is so interesting. So I'm going to read a little bit from the New York Times article because it's so good. Okay. So this is about partway down and then the rest of the last paragraph of the article. So it says, thus the murder, though unseen by any mortal eye, save that of its ferocious perpetrator, was brought straight home to Mary Eleanor Wheeler Pearcey. One cannot but marvel at the extraordinary strength and endurance imparted by furious excitement to a young woman described as being slight of figure and rather fragile in appearance. In a normal condition of mind, Mary Wheeler must have been incapable of the almost superhuman exertions which she put forth under the stimulus of maddening jealousy and blind wrath to commit and conceal the crime for which she has been condemned, without hope of mercy, to suffer the extreme penalty of the law. That's a big article too, and I read the whole damn thing.
Wow.
So after every sentence, I had to like sit and think like, okay, what the fuck did they just say? Okay. It's kind of like reading like old Shakespeare before it has been retranslated.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it reminded me of a little bit. Okay. So Sir Melville Macnaghten, and I'm sorry to anybody in the UK if I mispronounce a few words. I tried my best. But Melville Macnaghten, who later became the Assistant Commissioner of the London Metropolitan Police, we could do a whole case on that guy because he was a major player in a lot of famous investigations, including the Jack the Ripper case.
Oh.
So anyway.
So he was part of Jack the Ripper case?
Yes. And just an aside, he claimed, because I read this and I was just like, how? I started diving into it more, and then I was like, no, I'm going to save that for Paige when she covers Jack the Ripper, because he like claimed that he knew who Jack the Ripper was, but swore by every deity that he would never tell or some shit. I don't know.
Okay, I can't wait to get into Jack the Ripper.
Oh yeah. So again, we can do a whole ass case on Melville Macnaghten, but whatever. So that's why I didn't want to like even dive into him even more, because I'm like, I'm going to save this for Paige, because in the future, Paige already called Jack the Ripper and she's going to cover him at a later date. So that being said, so he was a part of the investigation for this case, and he later wrote that Mary would respond anytime that they would be like, what the hell happened? Why is there blood everywhere? Why is there blood all over you? She would chant like, killing mice, killing mice, killing mice, like that sort of thing. Crazy bitch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. So I can only imagine, because no tone of voice was told to me in this, but that's how I'm imagining it in my head, because at this point she's been caught. She just killed her lover's wife, She's off the
and
rails.
child.
Yeah, and child, yeah. She killed a baby, so she's off the fucking rails, Mary is. So that's how I'm imagining it in my head, because how else? You can't say that calmly. No.
Or
So
it could be like killing mice, killing mice, killing mice,
maybe. I don't know.
killing mouse, killing mice.
But it said like the literal verbiage that they used is she would respond by chanting that. So that's what I'm imagining in my head. If I'm wrong, I don't know. I wasn't fucking there. So Mary Pearcey was charged with murder. She maintained her innocence throughout the trial, but she was convicted and ended up being hanged on December 23rd of 1890. So this is how fast acting.
Any time.
No, it was literally like 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old was she?
During the time of the murder, she was either 23 or 24.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was hanged for this.
Wow.
Just 2 months later. So James Barry, who was the executioner, and apparently this is a weird thing to say, but he was kind of a famous executioner, apparently. So he said that she had a strong composure in her cell and described her as the most composed person in the whole execution party. And when asked if she had a final statement, she said, my sentence is a just one, but a good deal of the evidence against me was false. Don't know what that means. Thanks, Mary. And in his memoirs, James Barry described Mary Pearcey's execution as quiet and painless.
Interesting.
And if you remember from our Whaley House episode, when I talked about hanging, the long drop had already been standard by this time, so she was able to die on impact. Now, we're going to talk about Jack the Ripper.
Okay.
Yes. So, Mary Pearcey, like many other famous Victorian-era murderers, has been suggested as a suspect in the Jack the Ripper case.
Oh.
Yes. At the time, because they suspected her at the time of the murders that she may have been, in fact, Jill the Ripper. So, at the time, she was the only female suspect mentioned, because of anybody that knows anything about Jack the Ripper is that he operated mainly in 1888.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that it may have been like from like 88 till about 1891, possibly, but it's mainly in 1888 that we know of.
Right.
So Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, you heard that right, the author of Sherlock Holmes, speculated at the time that the Ripper might have been female, because a woman could have pretended to be a midwife and be seen in public in bloody clothing without arousing suspicion.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
My gosh.
This is why the wand chose the wizard today. That's why I chose this. I'm like, this is fucking crazy. So if she was literally going down North London with a bloody baby carriage and bloody clothes, someone might have thought that she was a midwife and not even thought anything of it.
Oh my, that is genius.
I know. I know.
Wow.
So this theory was dove into in 1939 by William Stewart in his book, Jack the Ripper, A New Theory, which specifically named Mary Pearcey in connection with the crimes. Of course, all of this is circumstantial. There's no physical evidence or eyewitness reports to link her to any of the Ripper crimes.
Sure.
Which, take a moment to appreciate the term Ripper crimes. Historians, right? I think Jack the Ripper is such a metal, awesome name.
And that just takes me back to, why do we name all these serial killers such awesome names, like badass names?
I know.
Stop. We got to stop that.
Right. Stop. That's kind of like people, when the argument of stop naming drugs really cool names like ecstasy and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if you named it something terrible like grandma's armpit, nobody would want to do it. I was going to use taint, but I figured I'd be a little more PG, but whatever. So historians think that because of the brutal nature of both Mary Pearcey's crimes and all of the Ripper cases, and of course the timeline, that people usually name her in regards to the Ripper cases. But, and I'm sure you will get into this in your Jack the Ripper case, but
Oh yeah, because I'm pretty sure I'm doing a 2-parter for Jack the Ripper because
it's a multiple parter. It's going to be 2 or 3 parts, obviously, because it's such an enormous case. So,
and there's so many theories.
Oh, a million. So in May of 2006, they did DNA testing on saliva on the stamps that were allegedly sent by Jack the Ripper to London newspapers. And these letters are thought to be genuine. So the saliva appeared to have come from a woman, which of course led people back to the Mary Pearcey being Jill the Ripper theory.
Oh my gosh.
No.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Like, oh.
I know. Doesn't it like get you like, oh.
Yeah, it does. It gets me pumped.
No. So,
oh man.
But that's kind of where it ends. That's where it ends. So, as far as like, I don't necessarily want to say pop culture, but in today. So, again, I'm going to refer back to the book that I referred to like at the beginning of the episode, Woman at the Devil's Door, The Extraordinary True Story of Mary Pearcey and the Hampstead Murders by Sarah Beth Hopton. So again, Sarah Beth Hopton did a lot of research on this case, and you can find a lot more details. So go read it. You know, give Sarah some support. So Mary Pearcey's case generated unbelievable press attention, of course, at the time.
Yeah.
Madame Tussauds Wax Museum of London made a wax figure of her for their Chamber of Horrors exhibit, and also purchased a number of Mary's personal items and furniture from her directly. The baby carriage and a number of other items in collection, like photographs of the victims, are thought to have been bought from Frank Hogg after the trial.
Oh my.
Yes. So when the exhibit of these items opened, it attracted a crowd of about 30,000 people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
so,
that morbid curiosity.
So Madame Tussauds Wax Museum in London has Mary Pearcey as a wax figure and has the perambulator. They have the baby carriage.
Still?
As far as I know, yes. Because I even went on Madame Tussauds' website.
Whoa. You really did do your research on this one.
I'm so proud of you. Proud of myself. Thank you. So, the noose used to hang Mary Pearcey is on display at the Crime Museum of Scotland Yard. Apparently, it was known as the Black Museum, but now it's just known as the Crime Museum of Scotland Yard. It remains closed to the public, but can be visited by it's like in a basement somewhere. Like it's like all these things that they're being like protected and put away and stored properly. But they can be visited by officers of the Metropolitan Police and any of the country's police forces by appointment.
Oh, dang it. So you got to be a police officer there to do it. Damn it.
Yeah, so that's going to be our new jobs. We're going to be Metropolitan Police in London.
To go see that crime place? Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
That'd be awesome.
All right, and that is the case of Mary Pearcey.
That is wild.
I know. I know. So when I started looking into the Jack the Ripper like connection, I had to stop myself because of course there's a million theories about Jack the Ripper, who it could have been, but the fact that not only was it most likely a woman's saliva on the stamps, and the fact that that's apparently was a popular theory that Jack the Ripper could have been a woman disguised as a midwife.
That is fascinating.
I know, that blows your freaking mind. So So Mary Pearcey. I don't think that she was Jack the Ripper. I think she was way too busy stuck up Frank's ass.
Well, that is true.
To be, out murdering poor women in the streets of London.
Other people.
I don't think, I don't think it was her. The only, I don't know, the only psychology that I could think of where she would do that is like possibly like, I'm mad because my boyfriend has a wife. But there's so many little details about the Jack the Ripper case that I just don't think that that was the case.
Mhm.
I do love entertaining the idea that Jack the Ripper could have been Jill the Ripper. I think that's
Yeah.
an amazing theory that definitely needs to be looked into, but I don't think Mary Pearcey was the one. I think either A, she was in it for the long haul and had this plan all along to wedge Phoebe out,
Yeah.
or that it literally just she wanted to be in Frank's life so bad and then something happened to where she snapped. And she was like, all right, Phoebe's got to go. And the baby, I think, was just unfortunate collateral.
Well,
But yeah, she killed Phoebe and the baby. And then wheeled them in a baby carriage miles
oh my
to
gosh.
dump their bodies. Isn't that fucking crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Why do you think I chose this? I stumbled upon this. And I was just like, holy fucking shit, this is what I gotta do next.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
I was like, fuck you, Peter Sutcliffe. You can fucking wait. Yeah, because I mean, like, I wanted to cover him because he just recently passed away. I wanted to be like, ding dong, celebrate, that motherfucker's gone. So I just rhymed and that really made me happy. I wasn't playing. So I wanted to cover him, but then I was just like, no, this is much more pressing.
Right.
It's well over 100 years old, but this is much more pressing.
Right.
So yeah.
Fascinating.
So that is the case of Mary Pearcey.
Yeah. That was a good one.
Yeah, I know. Let's take a breath.
Ooh, yeah.
All right.
Oh man.
Alrighty. So you can follow us on Facebook at
2K away.
And you can follow us on Instagram at 2K Away Podcast. And you can see our pretty pig faces on YouTube at our channel, 2K Away Podcast. And of course, with every time you type in 2K Away, it is with the number 2. And I will soon be launching our Patreon. Stay tuned for that. That'll be coming soon. I don't know when soon is, but soon. Yeah. And we also do have a Gmail if you'd like to email us and suggest something or just say hi. Our Gmail is 2kwaypodcast@gmail.com. So we will see you all in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.